Jimmy Carter's presidency took place in a very turbulent and disastrous period in American history. This eventually meant that he would only get one term. But what would have happened if he had actually won re-election? In this video, I discuss the scenario of a two-term Carter presidency. In 1976, Carter defeated Ford as he did in our timeline. He got 297 electoral votes to Gerald Ford's 240. After having won a crowded Democratic primary against candidates like Maurice Udall, Jerry Brown, Henry Jackson, and George Wallace, Carter advanced to the general election. Ford had to defend off against former Governor of California, Ronald Reagan. This election happens just as in our timeline, with the Watergate scandal, the Nixon pardon, and the loss in Vietnam fresh in people's memories. In 1980, Carter is seeking re-election, and because in this scenario things are going not so bad, he will end up winning. This is because the Iran hostage crisis has not happened, and since the economy is so good, Ronald Reagan decides against running in 1980, opening the door for George Bush to win the Republican GOP nomination. Carter runs for re-election again with Walter Mondale as his running mate. Bush chooses John Hines, a senator from Pennsylvania. Hines is a good candidate, but Bush is portrayed as too much out of touch. Because the economy is modest and these are conservative times, Bush is close to winning, but after eking out very narrow wins in Ohio and Missouri, Carter advances and wins the general election. In 1984, the stage is set for a Republican wave. Ronald Reagan this time runs, only fending off Bob Dole in the Republican primary. The Democratic primary is open and is won by Vice President Walter Mondale. He faces Gary Hart, Jesse Jackson, Alan Cranston, John Glenn, among others. Something that really defines 1984 is that the Soviet Union is not being bent, it is not being defeated, and the American people is asking for a president that will be stronger against the Soviet Union. Also this time the economy is going down, and there is a strong counterculture against Carter's liberalism. In the end, Reagan wins most of the nation. Mondale only wins 6 states. Those are the most democratic in the Union, and he also wins in the District of Columbia. In 1988, Reagan is seeking re-election. The Democratic primary is crowded, and it is eventually won by Gary Hart. On the way to the nomination, Hart has to defeat the 7 dwarfs, led by people like Michael Dukakis, Jesse Jackson, Joe Biden, Paul Simon, Al Gore, and Dick Gephardt. The international situation and the Cold War is, however, tense. The Soviet Union has placed nuclear missiles in East Germany, and while the economy is good, people are afraid, and Reagan is easily re-elected in one of the biggest landslides in history, along with his vice president and good friend Paul Laxalt. In 1992, the Soviet Union is declining, but it is still a force to be reckoned with, and the Republicans nominate Ronald Reagan's Secretary of State and former Chief of Staff, James Baker, who had ran both his 1984 and 88 presidential campaigns. He wins the Republican primary against big names such as Jack Kemp, Connie Mack III, Gordon Humphrey, and Bob Dole. The Democratic primary is won by the senator from Massachusetts, Paul Tsongas, who fends off against California Governor Jerry Brown, Delaware Senator Joe Biden, and Kentucky Senator Wendell Ford. He ends up choosing the governor of Arkansas, Bill Clinton, as his running mate, and Baker chooses the senator from Florida, who also ran in the primary, Connie Mack III. Baker easily wins, winning the popular vote by 8 points. He is helped a lot by his experience. Baker's experience helps him overcome the strong memories in the American population about the recession in 1991, as well as the rise of black nationalism. In 1996, however, the Democrats are able to take back the White House. They nominate the senator from Montana, Max Baucus. Max Baucus of Montana defeats the U.S. Senators Bob Kerrey of Nebraska, Tom Harkin of Iowa, Al Gore of Tennessee, and the former governor of California, Jerry Brown. James Baker has to put up with Pat Buchanan in the primary, and despite winning every state in the primary, this damages his campaign severely. Max Baucus and Joe Lieberman are sent to the White House, even though it is a narrow victory and Baker wins several important swing states like Pennsylvania and Florida. The GOP coalition collapses. The GOP coalition collapses as Democrats are able to win California for the first time since 1964. The big push for social reform and increased rights to minorities is a big thing. The economy is also not so good, and since the Cold War is now over, people are less focused on foreign policy and more on internal affairs. The war in the Balkans is still ongoing, but this is not enough to give Baker a second term. In the year 2000, it is set for a close election between Max Baucus and the senator from Arizona, John McCain. He wins his primary against the senator from Pennsylvania, Rick Santorum, Utah Senator Orrin Hatch, and perennial candidate Alan Keyes. Baucus, the president, runs with Joe Lieberman a second time, and a good economy and end to the Balkan Wars helps propel them to a second term with a quite comfortable margin of victory. McCain is held to only 217 electoral votes, not nearly enough to win the presidency. Much of this comes from Republican voters viewing him as not conservative enough. He also fails to win the endorsement of Rick Santorum in the general election, his biggest primary opponent. All of this helps Baucus win a second term, even though Republicans are now controlling both the Senate and the House. In 2004, the stage is set against the Democrats, and in a close victory, the senator from Kansas, Sam Brownback, defeats Senator John Kerry of Massachusetts. Kerry's running mate is, as historically, John Edwards, and Brownback chooses George Voinovich, a senator from Ohio and former governor of Ohio, as his running mate. Currently, the war on terror is ongoing, and even though the United States have not went into Iraq, they are engaged in a major conflict in Afghanistan. Kerry, being portrayed as a northeastern Massachusetts liberal, is unable to tap into the South and the West, and Brownback ends up winning the popular vote by 2 points. In 2008, the election is marked by a Supreme Court vacancy left by the death of Chief Justice William Rehnquist. A very crowded Democratic primary is won by Hillary Clinton, a senator from Arkansas. She defeats people like Illinois Senator Barack Obama, former North Carolina Senator John Edwards, former Governor of New Mexico Bill Richardson, Senator from Delaware Joe Biden, and former Representative of Ohio Dennis Kucinich. Republicans again nominate Brownback, and a okay economy despite of a housing bubble and a massive conservative movement thanks to the need to fill the Supreme Court vacancy propels him to a second term. In 2012, the stage is set for hope and change, and Barack Obama, a senator from Illinois, this time wins the Democratic nomination against a crowded field of moderate Democrats. People like Evan Bayh, Jim Webb, and Mark Warner, both from Virginia, makes sure that Obama is able to win with simply a plurality of the primary vote. In the Republican primary, Mitt Romney is able to defeat several far more conservative opponents in his quest for the White House. In this timeline, Obama chooses the senator from Iowa, Tom Harkin, as his running mate, and Mitt Romney goes with the senator from Texas, John Cornyn. This to resemble the Kennedy ticket of 1960, which had one guy from Massachusetts and one senator from Texas. However, the chance to elect the first African-American president turns out droves of African Americans, and with the economy weak, a massive push for social reform and change, he surges to victory, flipping traditionally Republican states like Nevada, Colorado, and Virginia. This election marks the end of Missouri as a bellwether state, and it is now a solid Republican state. In 2016, the Republicans nominate the senator from Florida, Marco Rubio. At this time, the United States is marked by a bad economy, and for the first time since the 70s, people are suffering from stagflation, meaning that even though prices are increasing drastically, salaries remain the same, and everything is less affordable than it used to be. Also, the North Korean hostage crisis is able to take down Obama. He is also suffering from his opposition to the Keystone Pipeline, which would help tens of thousands of Americans get a new job. Marco Rubio chooses a former governor of Minnesota, Tim Pawlenty, as his running mate. With the Senate tied and the House in firmly Republican hands, it is expected to be a squeaker. But Rubio is able to win the popular vote by 3 points and sending Obama packing home to Chicago. In 2020, Rubio wins re-election against a senator from Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren, who is not helped at all by her far-left views. She is viewed as too far left for America as a whole, and this is the first election in American history when a majority of Latino voters actually support the Republican candidate for president, with strong showings in states like Arizona, Texas, and of course his home state of Florida, which he wins by more than 10 points. And so, today in 2021, Marco Rubio is still the President of the United States. So this is what would happen if Jimmy Carter was a 2-term president. Thanks for watching, please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.